Kirk Math. All right, let's go. We are in 7.2, part 2, decimals. So we're going to take a look at solving equations with rational numbers like we did with fractions, except we're going to look at the rational numbers decimals. And we're going to figure out how can I get rid of decimals and just put them back to whole numbers to make it easier for me to solve. Similar to fractions, we're going to do that by multiplying, but this time we're going to use the powers of 10 to eliminate decimals and not least common denominator. All right, so the first thing we have to do is remind ourselves, how do we multiply decimals by powers of 10? Because that's a skill we're going to have to do in this topic. In your notes, we're going to take notes on this. Basically, you need to remember that you can multiply a decimal by a power of 10 just by moving that decimal point. Let me get a bigger pen here, bigger, this one. All right. So to multiply, we're just going to move the decimal point, okay? So for each 0 in the power of 10, we've moved one place to the right. And if you remember this, that's awesome, but we're going to remind ourselves if you don't. So here, if I'm doing 3 and 47/100ths times 10, I have 1 0, so I'm going to move it one place to the right and get 34.7. I have 2 zeros, 2 places, 3 zeros, 3 places, and notice how we fill in the extra place here with a 0. Okay, fill in any empty spaces with zeros, they're placeholders. So go ahead and try the one on the right, and then pause the video, give it a try, and then come back and see if you can do it with us. 1 0 for 10, so I'm going to move it one decimal point. So this is going to become 0.16. 2 zeros and 100, 2 times to the right. So when we multiply, we always go right. If you're dividing your, oopsies, that's too many decimals. If you're dividing, you're going to go a different direction. But when you're multiplying, we always go to the right. Okay, last one, 3, 1, 2, 3. So this is just going to become 16. There's where our 3. All right, now we're going to go ahead and start solving. So our first step is to just identify the terms with the greatest number of decimal places. I want to know which one has the largest amount of decimal places, right? So 95 here has 2, 55 has 2, and 60 has 0. So 2 seems to be the largest number of decimal places. Then we're going to multiply both sides by a power of 10. And the power of 10 is going to depend on those decimal points. So because we have 2 decimal points, we're going to multiply by 100. So remember on the previous slide how the zeros told me how many decimal places to move to the right? Well, the zeros are also telling us if I have 2 decimal places, that's going to be times 100, because my goal is to move this decimal point away. Doop, doop. Okay, so I'm going to need to move it 2 times on everything. Now, just like our fractions, when I multiply, I have to multiply this entire equation by 100. So I have to multiply this by 100. I have to multiply this by 100. Every term is going to get multiplied by 100. Okay, now a lot of this you can do in your head or do with your decimal point movement. So we're going to just stick there. So if I move my decimal 2 places, this becomes 95x. If I move my decimal point 2 places to the right, this becomes 55x. If I move my decimal places 2 places to the right, I'm going to fill in those zeros, and that becomes 6,000. Now we're going to solve just like we did in our fractions and what we've been doing all week for the last few weeks. We are going to solve just like normal. So I am going to go ahead and my constants are already on one side, so I only need to move my x's. So let's move those x's to the other side. 40x equals 6,000. Divide by 40 to get x alone. And I'm going to get x equals, well, let's see, 4 goes into 60. Because if I get rid of my decimals there, you're really doing 4 into 600. So we would have to figure out our math there. So let's see here, 600 divided by 4. 4 goes into 6 once. 4 goes into 20 5 times, and then a 0 at the end. So that's 150. All right, let's do it one more time to see if we understand. First step is find the greatest number of decimal places in your problem. So as I look here, I've got 1, 1. So the greatest number is just 1. So I'm going to times it by 1 decimal point means times by 10. So I'm going to times everything in here by 10. 7.3 times 10 is 73t. 22 times 10 is 220. 2.1t times 10 is 21t. 22.2 times 10 is 222. Now I have an equation that is has no decimals or fractions, so now I can just solve. So I'm going to get my t's together, so we're going to remove the 21 minus 21t. Okay, bring down that negative sign because that minus is part of the term. Okay, 2 20s coming down, and now I've got to subtract. So 3 minus 1 is 2. 7 take away 2 is 5. So I've got 52t plus 220 equals negative 222. So now I'm going to subtract 220 from both sides, remembering that 222 is negative. So that's 2t. So these signs here mean I'm going to add and keep. So it's going to become negative 442. Divide by 52. And I'm going to have to do some long division again. I know my answer is going to be negative. 442 divided by 52. Well, let's see. 52 times 2 is 104. 52 times 3 is 156. 52 times 4 would be 208. So then if this is times 4, then times 8 is going to be double this. So that's 416. We're getting closer. Add another 50 to this and do times 9. And I'm going to get 468 times 10. Oh, 468. Okay, so we're actually higher than that. So 8 is our answer here. And we do have a remaining fraction. So we're going to move it a little bit. Okay, so we're going to have negative 8. And then I need to do 442 take away 416. Borrow. I'm going to get 2650 seconds. Now, if you want to keep it like this on top, that's okay. But I wanted to see, I didn't know in my, just by looking at it, I didn't know if 52 went into 442 right away. So I wanted to do the math, and then if you could do the math, you can get it mixed number. All right, so then you have 2 more problems to practice. So go ahead and pause the video and then come back and see me, and we'll have the work done so you can check your answers. Hey guys, future Miss Kirkwood here. I totally forgot that I messed up on this problem. So make sure that you multiply the 50 by 100 as well, which would get you an answer of 100. On the other problem, 2 decimal places, the rest don't have any. So I'm still timesing by 100. You're going to get some really big numbers, and when you work with fractions and decimals, you're going to continue to get fraction and decimal answers. So you can keep them as fractions, but when it's something really big and crazy like this, it would be really great for you to turn it into a decimal. So you can almost think like if you're given decimals, try to turn them into decimals. When you're given fractions, keep them as fractions. And I got 0.93, but if this is as far as you go, that is still correct, okay? But just know that when you are given decimals, we're probably going to expect a decimal answer. So probably practice some of that long division a bit. And yeah, I'll see you later.